Welcome back, everybody. You're looking at the LIRR's latest weapon in the battle against snow. It's one of 7 jet engines that can ride the rails and blow the snow away, obviously, to try and create passage here for these trains. Now, another tool is this specially equipped train that sprays an alcohol-based solution trying to keep the tracks from freezing. But once the snow piles up past the 3rd rail here, they might have to suspend service. And obviously transportation and getting around, has been a huge challenge for folks who braved the elements to get into work. The challenge is coming back. Obviously, a lot of you folks at home can speak to that firsthand. I want to bring Andrew back in. He's keeping an eye on what's moving and, frankly, what's not, Andrew.
Well, and as you might expect, really not that many good ways to get around. And I'll be the first of a zillion people to tell everybody at home, if you don't have to leave home, don't. But the best method for getting around in these kinds of storms, usually the rails. Let's start there. The Long Island Railroad delays on the Ronkonkoma line, but everything else is running with relatively good service. Of course, that all subject to change to New Jersey, where we have the PATH trains, and the PATH trains reported on time right now. Again, that all could change as the evening goes on. New Jersey Transit also reporting pretty good service as we go through, as we shift from the PATH trains to the New Jersey Transit Rail. And we have a few reports of some delays and some cancellations on lines, but for the most part, that has been going well. Let's go to Metro North if we can. The Metro North has some service changes. Well, that just means extra trains running out of Grand Central to get people into Westchester and into Connecticut. So the rail's actually working better than you might expect for Metro North. Amtrak, if you're looking to get out of the region, Northeast Corridor service from New York South not affected yet, as well as the Empire and the Keystone. However, going the other direction, going north, that's where you're going to have trouble. The Amtrak lines between New York and Boston all suspended. The Acela is on a reduced service, as well as you might expect. The New York City subways all reported in relatively good shape. You can see the B, D, F, and M lines having a little bit of trouble, but for the most part, the subways running particularly well. The airports, well, come on now. There's cancellations and delays everywhere, and check with your airline. Probably not going to get out, but here's a live shot at Newark Airport, and you can see all the ground crews there trying to keep the runway and get that FedEx truck out. And if they're having that much trouble at Newark Airport, imagine the difficulty that they're having on other roads. In fact, New Jersey Transit is going to suspend its bus service. Again, New Jersey Transit buses are going to get off the roads at 8 o'clock tonight, and they're not sure when they're going to be able to get back on the roads. And as we shift over now to Long Island, there's 495 and the LIE at Comac Road. That's pretty similar to what you're going to find all over the place. There are cars on the road moving very slowly, plows needing a chance to get out, as you might expect. And as we cross, and so just leave a lot of extra time as you possibly can. And this is now US 1 at Old Post Road. Again, that's a pretty good. You can see, first of all, New Jersey getting a little lighter than Long Island seems to be getting it, but also, leave lots of extra time.
But the one thing the guys were telling me is really around now going forward, as bad as the roads were, and we heard a lot of firsthand accounts about people spitting out as you would in any storm, it's the visibility. The intensity of the snow is going to be such that you won't even have quarter-mile visibility on these roads. You shouldn't be on the roads, but if you are on the roads, you're going to quickly learn here that in addition to all the drifts and everything else, with the high winds and the volume of the snow, it's going to be so difficult to see. It's going to compound the slippery roads here, and you're going to have a lot of action.
And you just hit the 2 problems: visibility and the visibility and the wind, which is why bridge speeds are being reduced. Tappan's at 35 miles an hour. Expect other bridges to have reduced speeds as well. Just be real careful if you're going to be out there.
And for flights and people flying out, I know as of midday today, 1 o'clock, that was about the last flights that did get out. And then after that, for a lot of the area airports, they've been on lockdown and will be well into at least the morning tomorrow. Okay, let's keep on the transportation, and let's go to Sam Liebman, and she's joining us in Penn Station with, I'm sure, some folks who'd like to get out of Dodge and get home. Sam?
Absolutely, Rich. There has been a steady flow of people all afternoon here at Penn Station. It's still pretty busy, but not as busy as it would normally be at around this time. Usually rush hour. The rush hour is much earlier today, and it's a good thing people were taking advantage of the extra train service on the LIRR and New Jersey Transit. But there could be some suspensions. In fact, New Jersey Transit has announced that the following lines are going to be suspended as of 8 p.m. That's the Morris and Essex lines, as well as the Montclair Boonton lines, and the Midtown Direct service, any Midtown Direct service. So we talked to some people earlier, and they'll take a look at what was going on then. Commuters packed Penn Station during what would be a normally quiet time in the afternoon, trying to beat the weather.
I'm taking the commute out early today because I got Sabbath night and I can't afford to spend my weekend in New York City with nowhere to go in the street, so I'm headed back now.
Talking about, 12 to 16 inches of snow, the Long Island Railroad shutting down so they can plow.
In anticipation of a possible shutdown, commuters took advantage of extra service on the LIRR and New Jersey Transit, surprisingly without any major delays, but some passengers were prepared just in case.
I'm trying to stay positive. And whatever, if it's delayed, it's not a big deal. I have a book and stuff to read, so.
Now, Andrew mentioned that Amtrak service to Boston was canceled. That was canceled early on in the day. As we all know, Boston's going to get hit pretty hard. And also bus service for New Jersey Transit north of I-195 is also going to be suspended starting at 8 p.m. New Jersey Transit says it could take up to 12 hours to get the system running again, so don't expect service on all the lines that were canceled, as well as the bus lines tomorrow. Very limited service, if any, tomorrow above I-195. The MTA says that they will suspend service when snowfall accumulations total at least 10 inches. So that's the latest here from Penn Station. I'm Samantha Liebman, back to you in the studio.
Samantha, it's Andrew. Quick question. How's the communication inside Penn Station? Are you seeing a lot of confused passengers, or do people seem like they're getting the info they need?
It seems to be fine. We haven't seen many delays on the board. When it was very full earlier, you saw hordes of passengers piling into the tracks, into the stairwells to the tracks. But beyond overcrowding, doesn't seem to be any confusion. People have been listening to the, the announcements, and it seems to be moving pretty smoothly.
All right, Samantha, thank you very much. And, Andrew, I was thinking when you were asking the communication question, today, everybody on some handheld device, they've been knowing about the weather conditions by the minute. They've been knowing about the transportation changes or the latest information, states of emergency, counties declaring whatever. With all the challenges, and we're going to get into later, we were talking this morning, the records, or not the kind of records you want to set that we have seen coast to coast this year in America, all weather related. But people at least are getting notifications much better than they used to. Very few are being caught off guard here. Everybody knew the storm was coming. Everybody knew around when. And although the scope of the storm changed since the middle of the week here, nobody should be able to plead ignorance they didn't see this thing coming.
We tend to focus a lot on institutions and what they've picked up since Superstorm Sandy and what the transit, what the MTA has learned, LIRR, that sort of thing. But people seem like they are on a learning curve as well. So paying attention and leaving extra time, it's good to hear that people are getting where they need to go.
But unfortunately, with all the latest technology and information, it can't change the fact that Mother Nature is got some bad news tonight for us. And those poor folks along the coastlines in Long Island, as I bring John Heyman back, who is in Long Island right now. My gosh, John, we've been able to see the intensity of the snow just over the course of this hour. It's picked up perceptibly even through the camera.
Yeah, it has, unbelievably, since 2 o'clock. That's about when it went over, and it has just been coming down heavier and heavier and heavier over the past couple of hours. Right now, we're dealing with about a quarter-mile visibility or under, which is near blizzard conditions. Winds aren't picking up that much just yet, but still some 40-mile-per-hour gusts. Now, take a look at that tree. That's a big part of the problem. We actually had some rain mix in with the snow earlier, so that caused a lot of that snow to stick to the tree limbs, to the leaves, so they're already especially heavy. Now we're going to add about a foot to a foot and a half of snow on top of that. On top of that, 55-mile-an-hour wind gusts, so downed trees are going to be a massive problem tonight. And, of course, with all the problems with LIPA and all the power outages, well, we're going to have another widespread power outage event as we head through the overnight hours tonight. And, unfortunately, this time, unlike with Sandy, we're talking about temperatures falling into the 20s. So this is a major deal as we head into the overnight, Rich.
You know, John, just one question on that. Do we get a little bit of a break here in that you don't have many trees with leaves on them right now? In the winter months here, you're talking about a lot of bare trees. A lot of the trees that were obviously compromised either came down on their own or were taken down here after Sandy. Do we have a possibility that maybe we won't have the tree fall we saw 3+ months ago just because of where we are on the calendar?
Yeah, we're not going to have the same tree fall as Sandy. I mean, that was just such a prolific storm, such a big storm on such a wide scale. So we're not going to see the tree fall that we had from, say, Boston all the way down to the Delmarva. It's going to be more localized, but still, like you said, some of the trees compromised. It is colder, and some of this snow sticking to the power lines. So that alone could cause some extra problems. So power outages are still going to be a big deal. And, of course, when it's this cold and you don't have your heat, you know in a minute, and you're getting some big trouble in a hurry.
You know, and National Grid spoke to potentially as many as 100,000 Long Islanders losing power. But, John, in forecasting this storm throughout the week, beginning of the week, even towards the middle, it looked like we were going to get a few inches, maybe as many as 6. Talk about what changed in this storm. We were talking about this with Jeff earlier, that made it from such a, more than a dusting, a storm, into such a serious event as we're seeing this evening.
Okay, now first off, computer models getting better and better and better as we move along. Now, people are putting out amounts on Wednesday that's 72 hours before an event. That's just a little too early, Rich. I don't care who you are, that's just a little too early, but everybody went for it anyway, especially when you have two systems coming together. To put those out, well, it's very difficult. Now, what happened moving into yesterday and today, it became very apparent that the coastal event, that was going to be the stronger event, and as that began to take over more and more and more, we saw those snow totals ramp up very quickly. We wrapped the cold air in a lot quicker, and that's why we're seeing the higher wind gusts and more snow along the coast, and those coastal locations are now getting blasted.
And finally, John, you think that when it's all said and done, in where you are in Long Island and some of the places, let's say around that geological parallel, we're probably going to be looking closer to 1.5 feet than to a foot? Do you think that number sounds about right to you?
Yeah, I believe Jeff and Brian have been going 15 inches all day. That sounds very close. Of course, snow does set up in narrow bands, so you can never tell exactly where those narrow bands can set up. In some of those narrow bands, we could even see 18 to maybe even 24 inches in some of those smaller locations. So we'll be watching that carefully. Most likely area to have that, of course, Suffolk County into interior Connecticut.
All right, John, thank you very much. And of course, we'll be checking back as 501 News will throughout the evening with John Heyman and our team out there on the ground. We take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to bring you to some of the areas hardest hit by Sandy and see how they're doing from then and now. Stay with us. We'll be right back.